Welcome back everyone to the ultimate guide to Blender 3D rigging and animation, and this is where we left it off. Now what I'm going to do is, before we actually do anything with this, is we're going to bring in one more bone. So if I press Shift A, I'm going to bring in another bone. Now the thing is, if I press Shift A in object mode, it's going to create another bone next to this one, which means these are two separate objects now, and we really don't want that because it's creating a new armature. So I don't want that. What I want to do is, I want to click on the first bone I brought in, press Tab so that I'm in edit mode, and then press Shift A, and you'll notice you don't even have to go and find it. It will just literally bring in a bone. Alright, so now we've done that. We've got two bones here, like so, and now we need to name them. So I'm going to come over to this little bone icon over here, and you'll see that this one is called bone. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go in and call this root bone. I'm going to come to this one here now. I'm going to call this swing bone. And the reason I'm always calling them bone is the fact that now you can see they appear in here. Now, if I want to do a search, all I need to do is put in bone, and it's going to bring up all of the bones that I'm looking for. If I just put in swing without bone, then it'd be a waste of time putting in bone because I won't be able to find it. So that's why we're actually, naming them correctly as well. And it's very important. It might not seem important now, but the moment you have hundreds of bones in a scene, you're really going to want to make sure that you've named them bone and you've named them, what exactly they do. So really, really important. Now, the other thing is, if I go over the top of this, you can see that it's not quite in line, so over the top, with this swing. And that's also important because when this bone is swinging with this swing, we want it in line with the swing. So first of all, I'm going to rotate it round so that it's pointing down. So if I press R and X and 90, we can see we have another problem in that this bone is rotating from the center of here. Now, even if I grab this here and rotate it, you'll see nothing happens. So I want to rotate it correctly. Now, the best way of doing that is to press the little sideways V next to the question mark, and it'll open up a menu like this. And the one we want is 3D cursor. What that means is, anytime I'm pulling anything, it's always going to be pulled from this actual cursor. So if I'm scaling this, you can see from the 3D cursor. If I move the 3D cursor over here, it will scale from over here. So what I want to do is I want to rotate this. So RX 180 and rotate it so it's pointing down. Now at this point, we should put that back. So we're going to press the little sideways V again, and we're going to put it back to individual origins. And then what we're going to do is we're going to reset our transformations. Now we don't need to reset the transformations of the actual tree because we're not actually rigging or doing anything with the tree. What we need to do is reset the transformations of the actual swing here. So if I press Ctrl A, all transforms, right click, set origin to geometry, and now it's all set, ready to attach this rig to this actual swing, or we're nearly all set. Now the other thing is, you can see if I go back to this bone now, if I press 7 and go over the top, if I press Z wireframe, you can see that this is not really in line with the actual swing, and that's important. I want to actually put this in line before I start because then it's going to make sure my swing is going the correct way. So if I press RZ though, you'll see nothing actually happens. What you need to do to rotate that is if you come over to your bone over here, you will see you've got one that says roll. Now, if I turn the roll, you will see that I can roll the bone in the correct way. Now, the other thing is at the moment, I can't actually move this bone and I need to. So I'm going to press Shift Spacebar, Move Tool. And what I'm going to do is as well, because if I'm moving this, it's moving like at this angle and I really don't want that. What I want it to do is move at the angle I've put it on. So if I set this to normal now I can move it basically along that branch into the middle where we actually want it. And now we're perfectly set up. So I'm going to press Z, go back to solid, put this on material, and there we go. Now it's ready to actually be attached to our swing. So we've named our bones, we've reset our transformations, we've put our bones exactly where we want them, we have our root bone, so now we can actually join these up. Just before we do that though, if we press tab and we go into object mode, we can come down now and you will see that we have one that says, not in the bones, on here, viewport display. So you can see that we have the viewport display here. Now what we can do is we can actually show the names of the bones, which is really, really handy to make sure that we've named them all. We can also have them in front. So in other words, nothing will be hidden by these bones. It will basically always be in front of them. Really handy if you've got things like arms and legs and you can't quite see the bones and things. What we can also do though, is we can change the look of the bones. Now, I like the way these bones look, but you might want to change them to just be a wire or a bee bone or something like that. But I like the octahedral look, so I'm going to keep them on there. But if you want to change your look, then you're welcome to do so. Now what we want to do is we want to attach this swing onto these bones. So I'm going to grab my swing, I'm going to come over, grab my bone, I'm going to press Ctrl P, and you can see now we've got a new menu that pops up, set parent to. Now the thing is, we want to set this in a certain way, because if we don't, it means it's going to cause us a lot more work. So I'm just going to quickly go through these. So if you're saying it with empty groups, it's basically making this swing that we've got here have no weight in it whatsoever. The weight will be the thing that actually carries the swing forwards or sideways and things like that. But with no weights on there, it means it's free for us to put the weights on there. Bottom right hand side, I'm just going to put an image on there which shows you what weighting is. You'll see on the left hand side we have weighting in red, which is 100% weight, and on the other side we have weighting in a really, really light greeny bluey color, and that basically is no weight whatsoever on the other side. If it's dark blue, it means absolutely zero weight. So in the middle you can see that it will be yellowy, orangey, something like that, and what that means is like, well, it's 0.5, it's halfway between. This is important because that dictates how much a bone will influence that particular part of the mesh based on the weight, what you've actually got on there. So that's why it's so important. So if we put on empty groups, it means that we have control of a weight painting or weighting this actual swing. Now, if we put it on with envelope weight, what Blender does is it kind of puts some weights on there, but not enough to actually get the job done. So it's basically a half kind of way between no weights and automatic weights. You might want that if you're doing a character and you actually want to sort out where the joints are moving and things like that. You actually want to do it yourself, you got the experience to do it, and you want it moving in a certain way. It could even be something like an octopus, where it's got an arm and you want to weight it a certain way because of how the bones are laid out and things like that. And that's when you might use something with envelope weights. Now the other thing is, with automatic weights, which is this one here, means that Blender does all of the job for you. This is great when you're dealing with something like a character or something like that, where you need a full rig weighting and you need the arms to move in a certain way. But it's not very good if we're talking about a swing, because we only have one bone in here and we don't want it really to be weighted, the bone is. So what we're going to do on this occasion is choose with empty groups. And there we go. Now this is actually weighted to this. So the next thing we want to do now is, if I come to my swing, you will see that now under the modifiers tab, I'm going to shut that up a minute. I'm going to pull this up. We have something called armature already put on there. So you can see now it's got an armature attached to this. Also, if we come down to this little green arrow here, you can see now we have the root bone and the swing bone attached to our swing, ready to go. Now, if we come to our actual bones, so I'm going to come to my bones just for now. I'm going to come over to where it says object mode, and I'm going to go to pose mode. If I grab this bone, you'll see it does nothing. Actually, nothing against the swing whatsoever. So the pose mode is basically how you are going to do your keys. Basically how you insert your keys, same as what we did on the basic animation, but we're going to be doing that with the actual bones. You can't insert keys in object mode, edit mode. The only way you can do it is in pose mode. Now let's go back to object mode. And what I'm going to do now is I want to weight this up. So let's quickly go into our swing now. We're going to press the tab button. The moment we press the tab button, you will see we have another option here, which is how much weight do you want to assign to each of these bones. Now the thing is, the root bone, as I told you, doesn't want any weight in it. So if we go to the root bone, we'll basically remove 100% or 1 of the weight on there. So we're going to click that. Then we're going to go to our swing bone. And basically we want to make sure that all of this swing has 100% of the weight on it. So in other words, if I press A and grab it all, and then come over to where it says assign 100%, click the assign button. And now if I go over to here, come down to where it says weight paint, you can see now that this bone here has 100%. This bone here has nothing. So the root bone has nothing and the swing bone has 100%. Now, while you're in weight paint, you can actually come over and actually paint the weights in as well. So there is that, but we're not going to discuss that right now. What we're just going to do is discuss the root bone and the swing bone and the weighting options that we just gave it. Once you see this, now you can go back to object mode like so. Now that means that if I come to pose mode now, so I'm just going to go to, click on my bones, go to pose mode. It means now when I grab this bone, the whole swing moves with it. It means when I grab this bone though, nothing happens. And the reason is, if I go back to object mode, whenever you make a root bone, all of the other bones should be parented to this root bone. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press tab. I'm going to grab this actual swing bone, grab my root bone, press Control P, and then keep offset. If I kept it connected, you'll see it'll move the bone, and I don't actually want to do that. What I want to do is press Control P and keep offset. Now, if I move this bone now, you will see nothing happens, but you will see there's an actual line there, and that means that this bone is connected. What that means is though, if I come now to pose and now I grab my root bone, everything's going to move with it because this root bone, as I said, is the one that controls everything. It basically controls where it is in space and time, and it doesn't matter what you do with all the other bones. Wherever I put this, the animation will still move. So I'll show you that actually, what I mean by that on the next lesson. All right, everyone. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.